In this video we run through the Investor Details page. This is where you can enter details about yourself or your client, including income, expenses and savings. You can access this page at any time by clicking Investor Details in the left navigation bar. Okay, so first up you can choose how many investors you want to include in the scenario. The default is 1, but you can choose 2 for a couple. Let's choose 2 investors, say for a husband and wife. Now all inputs are optional. If you don't want to enter a name, the default investor 1 and investor 2 will be used. If you don't want to enter your age, no problems, everything is optional. If you're ever confused with any field, if there is a red triangle in the top right hand corner, just hover your mouse over the field to see a little explanation. You can also click help up the top right or down the bottom left at any time to be taken to the help and support area on our site. Also worth noting is that none of the information you enter into the calculator is sent to us or stored by us in any way. Okay, so let's enter in some details. Let's enter in both investors' names and ages. Say this person's name is George, has a wife Jane. And Jane's a bit of a cougar, she's a bit older than George. Now let's enter an annual salary and bonus that gets paid every year. These amounts will increase every year with inflation. So let's enter in 100,000 a year for George. And he gets paid a bonus of 5,000 a year. And Jane gets 120,000 a year, with a bonus of 10,000. Now it's pretty unlikely you will remain on the same inflation adjusted salary for 30 years. So you can vary the amounts of salary and bonuses paid each year on the yearly changes page, which we'll run through in another video. Moving on to expenses, we've got here lifestyle expenses, which are how much you spend each year on things like your children, car bills, entertainment, etc. You can also enter an additional expense here for each person that you may like to separate for whatever reason. For example, you may like to put rent in here to compare renting versus buying. Note you should exclude mortgage payments here and leave that to the home details page, which we'll run through in another video. So let's assume George and Jane have $100,000 a year lifestyle expenses. And George is a bit of a car nut and he spends about $15,000 a year on his car, which increases every year with inflation. And Jane's a bit of a shopper and she spends $10,000 a year on shopping, which increases every year with inflation. Turning to savings, because we've chosen 2 investors, everything gets added together into one savings account. If you don't want this to happen, simply choose 1 investor and run the scenario separately. You could also split the savings ownership between the investors. So let's say George and Jane have $100,000 in their joint savings account, and that earns 5.5% per annum, and they have equal ownership over that. Now with income tax, we let you decide whether you pay the Medicare surcharge, which will depend on your income and whether or not you have private health insurance. If you're a bit confused about the Medicare levy or Medicare levy surcharge, just jump on our site and check out our Medicare levy guide, which is underneath the guides area. We let you choose the tax rates to apply and allow you to enter custom tax rates by choosing custom and clicking the enter custom tax rates link. So we'll take a quick look at the tax rates page. And here we can see that you can edit the threshold, marginal rate, Medicare levy and Medicare levy surcharge, as well as see previous year's tax rates. And you can click the back button or the back to investor details button to go back to our investor details page. Now with the final area, scenario details, every year you're going to have a cash surplus or a cash deficit from your personal income and the income from your investments minus your expenses. You can allocate this amount to either a home loan or your savings account. Finally, you can choose an inflation rate and the starting year. Things that increase with inflation include salaries, bonuses, lifestyle expenses, and investment expenses. You can see a full list on the help and support page. Okay, so now we've entered in our investor details. Let's check out some of the results for the inputs we've entered. You can jump to a report at any time by choosing the report in the left navigation bar. Let's check out the summary page. We can see George and Jane's assets and equity rising at the same level over the next 30 years. So in 30 years, they'll have around 2.5 million in equity and assets. Good stuff. We can see their lifestyle expenses increasing and their cash flow left over also increasing, and unfortunately we see taxes increasing as well. If we head to the cash flow page, we can see George's and Jane's salaries, bonuses, and the interest they earn on their savings account every year. We can also see the tax they have to pay, George's car expenses, Jane's shopping expenses, and all the cash left over. Now let's go back to the investor details page. Now let's play around with some numbers. Let's see what happens if George actually works a little bit harder and earns $135,000 a year. And he gets a $15,000 bonus. And Jane says to him, "Honey, you're spending too much money on that car of yours," and he cuts back his car expenses to $10,000 a year. Let's see what happens with George and Jane after 30 years now. Taking a look at the summary page, we can check here, there's about $4.6 million in equity now at the end of 30 years. It's quite a big difference. Okay, so that wraps up our investor details video. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can download this calculator only from My Money Calculator. And if you need any help, you can check out our help and support area, or don't hesitate to contact us.